is the voice of the Longhorns, the host of High School Scoreboard Live, the guru of high school football in Texas. It is the great Craig Way. Hey, Craig.
Hey, Tep, how are you?
I'm all right. Happy playoffs.
Yeah, it is that time, isn't it? Like I was saying the other night, it's great to have that kind of Christmas present, that package you open up, and lo and behold, you're headed for the postseason, and here's who we're playing, and here's where we're going to be, and let's get it on.
I want to ask you about some first-round matchups. Obviously, South Lake Carroll-Cedar Hill jumps to mind as a real battle of heavyweights in the bi-district round. What other games in the first round of the playoffs are particularly piquing your interest?
That certainly sticks out to me. You brought that up, and it has all of the glitz and the glamour of what those two programs have accomplished over the years, what they're still accomplishing, what Cedar Hill is trying to accomplish to add on to back-to-back. That in itself, I think, is pretty exciting just to hold. But there are other good ones. Longview Lufkin comes to mind. Mm-hmm. And we've already seen how those two have gotten after it. I think there's some good East Texas matchups and a couple out in West Texas as well. When you go down the classification ladder and you look at some of the smaller ones too, there's a couple that might stick out and go, hey, that might be pretty interesting for a round one matchup. But certainly for 6A and 5A, those are two that just kind of leap off the page at me.
I asked you this on Friday night, and I figure I might as well get a retread of a question. Take your pick. State championship weekend or this weekend maybe combined with last weekend?
You're asking me to choose between two children.
I know I am. I know.
They're both wonderful in different ways. And by the way, I'll add opening night to that. Mm-hmm. It's like three completely unique children, so to speak. And I've got four kids, and unique doesn't even begin to describe them. But opening night is special because you've waited and there's been all the heat of those 2-a-day practices and all the work and all that stuff leading up to that. So you have that to start with. Then you get to what we now refer to as week 11. It is the 10th game for everybody, and it ends after that. And so there's that, and there's that mystery, there's that suspense, there's that angst as to who's getting in, how are they getting in, or could it be coin flips, could it be positive points, could it be plus minus, could you have something really goofy like what happened in 13-6A where you have three coaches walk out to the 50-yard line and flip a coin, or could you have a 27-5A with that really weird thing and the way that all worked out with Lockhart and San Marcos, so it has an extemporaneous quality to it that none of those other weeks have. And then, of course, state championship Saturday is the pinnacle, and it's been all of that work that everybody's put in, and it finally comes down to those final games over those final 3 days, state championship Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. So they're all unique in their own way. They all have their special quality. And there's a little bit of, and you know this as well, being on the set, there's a different kind of energy that permeates what you're trying to get accomplished. When I'm in the broadcast booth on the championship days, it's very, very plotted out, and then you just let the game unfold and you call the game. On that Friday night of week 11, stuff's happening on the fly. When I was just getting into the studio and found out there was going to be this three-way coin flip in 13-6A, and coaches were going to walk out, when I heard Pflugerville had won the flip, the first thing in my mind was, we got to get a hold of George Herman. We got to get him on the phone. So your mind works differently. And then we were scrambling, and sure enough, Coach Herman's a great guy, and we got him on the phone. And, so it's the way that you mentally dial into the events of the day differs week 1, week 11, and then the final week, the state championship weekend.
Craig, I'm going to throw a scenario at you. You're in the press box. You're calling that Lockhart game, and the quarterback runs into his own end zone, waits for the defensive tackle to run toward him, and then gives him the football. What do you say?
Well, hopefully, if I've done my job, I've prepared myself for that moment, that the possibility of something like that, and not to go on a big tirade here, but as bizarre as that was, I completely understand why they did what they did, because
absolutely.
It's all about, you have to do what you have to do to get to the next point. I don't put it on them, and really I don't fault the district executive committee for not having far-sightedness on that thing, because who can plan for that sort of thing? What I do think, though, is that we need to get rid of negative points in a points tie-breaking system. It's when you get into the minus is when all the craziness really starts happening. There was controversy enough in 13-6A about whether Hendrickson should have been included to break the three-way tie for seeding between the two Division I teams, and Hendrickson was going D2. And Round Rock had won the head-to-head against Cedar Ridge, but it didn't even matter because they included Hendrickson in the tiebreak. Those are the kinds of things that have to be sorted out in advance. And like I say, I don't really fault them too much in terms of not having that kind of farsightedness, but now we have test cases for it, and maybe they should step back and say, maybe the negative points thing doesn't work as well. Maybe we should try to go positive points only.
He's Craig Way. He's the voice of the Longhorns, the voice of high school football on Fox Sports Southwest, joining us on DCTF Live. Get involved with the conversation, #DCTF Live. Craig, I look at the brackets, and are there any teams that you feel like are maybe not overwhelming, but clear favorites to win a state championship? I know one or two springs to mind, but I don't want to poison the well here. I want to hear what you have to say.
Two come to mind: Canadian and Navasota.
There we go.
I just think they have clearly proven on a week in, week out basis that they are at the top of the heap. Now, having said all that, remember, and you'll remember this, Greg, last year, Navasota posted numbers that were equally, if not in some cases, more impressive, and then they wind up having to go double overtime and get a weird call to kind of help them out on that win over Argyle. So by the time you get to that fifth or sixth ball game, things can get a little crazy. But standing as we are right now, getting ready to go into the postseason, I think those two, if you had to say it, would be like if you had to say we're overwhelming favorites, A, to win, and in their cases, B, to repeat. It would be those two. Now, I think Cedar Park is playing the best football of any 5A team in the state, but we also know 5A is chock full of fantastic teams, so there's no guarantees for the Timberwolves either.
He's Craig Way. He is heading to Morgantown this weekend to call the Texas and West Virginia game. Do you have the rest? I know you like to take in about 50 different high school football games. Do you have your schedule planned for bi-district weekend?
You know what I'm doing Friday night?
No.
Tep? I'm calling the basketball game that Texas is playing in Shanghai, China, but I won't be in China. I was originally scheduled to go to China. Mm-hmm. And maybe I made the Chinese government nervous. I don't know. But what happened was there was some miscommunication. The Pac-12 conference, which is the host conference, was supposed to set it up for not only the Texas radio broadcast crew, but for their own host institution that's playing there, Washington. Texas is playing Washington, for their radio network to go. There were some major problems with regard to J9 work visas and broadcast equipment being transported, and the Chinese government finally said, no, they're not coming. So what's going to happen is Friday night, I'm actually going to be sitting in the radio football broadcast booth in Morgantown calling a basketball game being played in Shanghai, China between Texas and Washington.
He is the hardest working man in sports media in the state of Texas. He's Craig Way. Follow him on Twitter at CraigRay1. Craig, happy playoffs, my friend, and enjoy Shanghai via remote.
Well, as I said, whether I was in Shanghai or Morgantown, West Virginia and China are both foreign countries, so that was fine. So I'm ready for either way. So thanks.
Thanks, Craig. Appreciate you, man.